Hello, everyone, and welcome to our third and final Cancer Awareness and Prevention Chat for the 2020 Summer Ride for Texas 4000. Today, I am so excited to welcome three riders with us today. We have Shivani and Annalena and Shreya with us today. Ladies, do you want to just introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about what route you're on and any leadership positions that you have with Texas 4000. Shivani, let's start with you.
Hi, I'm Shivani. I am on the 2020 Ozarks route. I am not on any leadership positions, but yeah. Do you also want us to talk about why we ride, or?
Sure, if you'd like to, yeah, go for it.
Okay, so one of the main reasons I ride is for my uncle who died of lung cancer when I was in high school. Often when I'm on the bike, I think of him and kind of the conversations we had before he passed. We talk about a lot of things from like physics to string theory. And so he was kind of everything I wanted to be at his age of 65, physically fit, mentally fit, and just perpetually curious. So always keeping him in my thoughts.
Oh, thank you so much. Annalena, let's go to you next.
Yeah, hi, I'm Annalena. I'm representing the Sierra route today. I'm part of the programs and gears committees in Texas 4000, just as a committee member. And I ride for my family. Today in particular, I'm riding for one of my mom's friends, Andrea, who passed prematurely from cancer earlier this week. So I'm just riding for Hope, Knowledge, and Charity.
Thanks so much. Shreya, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Shreya. I am a 2020 Rockies rider. I was a tribute coordinator last summer, and then I was on the travel committee this year. I ride primarily for my grandmother who passed away from breast cancer when I was young, and for my mother, a breast cancer survivor.
That's so fantastic. All right, well, guys, I'm so excited that everyone is here today. We are thrilled to welcome two guests from one of the Sierra routes stops at Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center up in Seattle. We have Katrina Welch-Weirden and also Dr. David Coffey joining us today. And I want to welcome you two here. We're so happy that you're here. I know that Katrina, you wanted to kick us off today with some information about Fred Hutch.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us, guys. We're really excited to be here virtually. We do wish it was in person, but given the times, this is the best we can do. So for those that aren't familiar with Fred Hutch Cancer Research Center, or as we call it, Fred Hutch, is based in Seattle, Washington, in what is now a very vibrant South Lake Union neighborhood. Our mission is the elimination of cancer and related diseases as causes of human suffering and death. Since our doors opened in 1975, Fred Hutch has been really redefining what's possible in cancer research. We have world-renowned scientists that work from bench to bedside and to translate scientific insights into life-saving advances. Perhaps one of our best examples is Dr. E. Donald Thomas, who won the Nobel Prize for Physiology or Medicine for developing the bone marrow transplant right here at Fred Hutch. So we are the founders of the bone marrow transplant, which is something that's pretty unique and cool. Since then, over 14,000 patients have been seen for stem cell or bone marrow transplant at the Seattle Cancer Care Alliance, which is the clinical outpatient arm of Fred Hutch. Next slide. So we've extended our Nobel Prize winning development of bone marrow transplant to one of the world leaders in T-cell immunotherapy, so think CAR T-cells. We've also made tremendous advances in genomics, immunology, and computing that are really quickly accelerating the pace of discovery. We're combining leading edge thinking with revolutionary technologies to personalize cancer care, and you'll hear a little bit more about that personalized cancer care from Dr. Coffey. And we're inventing tools to make cures more affordable and accessible for everyone. And I think that's really important. We're seeing a lot of health disparities come to light now. And so one of our goals is really to make all of the advancements that we're creating accessible to everyone that needs them. Fred Hutch Scientific Excellence is really reflected by our unmatched success at securing federal grants. We're ranked first in NIH funding among all U.S. independent research centers, and we're one of the top National Cancer Institute's funded academic and research institutes in the country. So that really speaks to the caliber of our science that's done here. Next slide, please. But government funding doesn't allow us to really quickly capitalize on the extraordinary opportunities made possible by today's technologies. Philanthropic dollars are really the funds that allow us to pursue bold and innovative science that can save lives. So these funds also help bridge gaps between federal grants, and private funds really help us move faster and really explore the newest and most daring ideas. Philanthropy also allows us to be nimble and flexible in ways that increase momentum and move ideas toward leading edge discoveries. And this is one of the reasons why your rides are so important. The money that you guys raise for cancer research really fuels work that otherwise would not be funded. So really a huge thanks to all you writers for your commitment. These are a few pictures of the past 2 years of the writers that have come through from Texas 4000. So we're really appreciative for all the work that you guys do. It's really very important. Next slide. So a topic that is on everyone's mind, unfortunately, is COVID. And since Seattle was one of the first places in the country to experience this devastating disease, I thought it would be prudent to share a little bit about how we're taking action and how it's affected our center. So I'd like to note that before the pandemic, about 25% of our work was in viruses, vaccines, and infectious diseases. In fact, each year, about 14 million people worldwide are diagnosed with cancer, and up to 20% of those cancers are caused directly or indirectly by viruses or other pathogens. So we've been studying viruses for a long time. We're a longtime leader in a global fight against the HIV/AIDS pandemic and home to the HIV Vaccine Trials Network, which is the largest international collaboration to develop vaccines and protect against HIV. We're also world leaders in understanding the immune system and harnessing the power of T cells and B cells to fight cancer. So all this research is relevant to the current crisis and allowing us to really quickly pivot some of our research towards COVID-19. So once a project run by Dr. Michael Bowick is called COVID Watch. And Amazon is supporting this effort with funding and collaboration on the study design. And they're also providing technical expertise and web hosting from Amazon Web Services. So this study really aims to answer some of the most important questions about COVID-19, including the infection rate of SARS-CoV-2, both symptomatic and asymptomatic over time, how long a person that encounters the virus can shed the virus, and if an individual can be reinfected again. So the results are really helping the entire scientific community understand which immune responses will help protect and be needed to generate a vaccine. Next slide, please. So Fred Hutch scientists are running additional studies, a lot of them, but we also have an internal study run by Julie McRath, who is a world-renowned HIV expert. And she is running a study funded by a gift from the Bezos family to look at the prevalence of the disease on the Fred Hutch campus. So we have about 500 employees that have volunteered to give blood and nasal samples for the study. And this return to campus study is helping shape our strategies in safely bringing people back on site. So we, in March, went to remote work for the majority of our campus, especially our administrators. So now we're trying to kind of slowly bring people back. And I'm really excited to report that of the 531 PCR tests that we've conducted among employees who are participating in the study, we've had no tests that are positive for SARS-CoV-2. So this really means that our precautions and actions are working. And we really hope to serve as an example to other cancer centers, corporations, and other places of work on how to really return to a more normal, although different life. And we don't just hope, in fact, we've been guiding policy here in Washington State and beyond to do just that. But what's also really important about these studies and our precautions is that we have to be able to continue, we've been able to continue our mission, which is fighting cancer. And this is truly imperative, innovative, and life-saving work, like the research being done by Dr. Coffey, has not been shelved or put on pause because of COVID-19. And that's actually really pretty exciting. So we're able to tell our donors and our foundations and fundraisers like you guys that yes, we are still truly in need of your funds. And those funds are really important to continue fueling the work that we're doing here at Fred Hutch. So thank you guys. And with that, I'd like to have Dr. Coffey tell a little bit more about what he's working on.
Yeah, so I'm going to jump in real quickly and just encourage. So first of all, Katrina, thank you so much. As a former Seattle resident, I am very familiar with Fred Hutch, and I just love hearing about all the amazing work that you guys are doing. And then I just want to encourage everyone watching, all of our writers, if Shivani, Annalena, and Shreya have any questions, just to jump in with questions for either Katrina about Fred Hutch or Dr. Coffey as he gets his program teed up. So I also just want to welcome Dr. David Coffey to our live stream today. He is a researcher and an oncologist, which I'm very excited to hear what he has to say because he sees both sides of research and treatment. And then I'm also going to apologize. I have a dog that is moaning in my background right now, so you might hear a bit of whining, but that's how things are right now. But Dr. David Coffey, welcome so much to the Texas 4000 program today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you for inviting me to be a part of your chat today, so thank you. I also want to thank you so much to the members of Texas 4000 and the contributors. It is so important what you are doing, raising awareness for cancer research and bringing support to the cause is critical, so thank you so much. I just put together a few slides to review with you a little bit about the research that I'm doing. So as mentioned, I'm a physician scientist at the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center, and I primarily focus on blood cancers, specifically multiple myeloma. And I'm going to talk with you briefly today about a project that I am undertaking to predict drug sensitivity from integrated tumor genomic profiles as well as high-throughput drug screening in patients whom have relapsed multiple myeloma. Next slide. So as you are already familiar, cancer is not one disease. It's actually a disease of multiple types. And we traditionally have defined cancer based off of the organ in which it arises in. So if it arises in the prostate gland, we call it prostate gland cancer. If it arises in the breast, we call it breast cancer. But actually, it's more complicated than that. And I'm going to show you some slides in a little bit about how within one individual cancer, it can actually be quite heterogeneous and different at the cellular level. Next slide. As mentioned, I primarily focus on the treatment of a cancer called multiple myeloma. This is a bone marrow cancer, and specifically, it's an incurable cancer of bone marrow plasma cells. Within the bone marrow, all of our blood cells are formed. This includes our red blood cells that carry oxygen, our white blood cells that help fight infection, and platelets that help form blood clots. Among the white blood cells that help fight infection are plasma cells. These cells are generally responsible for secreting antibodies. Antibodies are proteins that bind to bacteria and other infectious agents and helps clear them from the body. Unfortunately, an error in one of these plasma cells, such as a mutation in their DNA, results in them having uncontrolled growth and causing damage to the bone marrow and other areas of the body. Specifically, patients may have bony lesions or painful spots in the bone that are prone to fracture. Because of the breakdown in the bone, they may have high calcium levels in their blood. They may have reduced red blood cell count called anemia, or these proteins that are made by the plasma cells can be damaging to the kidneys and cause kidney failure. This cancer is the second most common cancer of the blood in the United States behind lymphoma. The average person is diagnosed at the age of 69, and the median overall survival after diagnosis is just 5 years. Next slide. So as I mentioned, cancers are not one disease, but multiple. But even within a single type of cancer, like multiple myeloma, the tumor cells themselves can be different from one another. So take this figure I've shown here. I have light blue cells, dark blue cells, and pink cells. You'll notice that each cell changes in its abundance over time. The pink cells, in this case, have a mutation that gives them a growth advantage so that they outcompete the light blue cells and continue to expand. And so the tumor composition is changing rapidly, in some cases, over time. At the end of the figure, you see a gray cell has emerged, and that cell can potentially outcompete the pink cells. So we have to think of cancer not only as different by the organ type, but also within a single individual can have a variety of different subtypes that makes it very challenging to treat. Next slide, please. So let's talk about precision medicine. You may be familiar with this concept, but those who are not, I will provide a brief definition. Precision medicine is an emerging approach for disease treatment and prevention that takes into account individual variability in genes, environment, and lifestyle for each person. The concept of precision medicine is not new. We've been using it for years. Take, for example, if you needed a blood transfusion. Your doctor may type your blood, determine if you're type A, B, AB, or O, and deliver to you the proper blood that you need based off of your blood type. In doing so, we ensure that the blood is compatible with you and that you do not have an allergic reaction. Well, the same concept can be carried over to oncology. Next slide. So in precision oncology, we attempt to tailor the treatment to specific genetic changes unique to each patient's tumor. So this figure shows an example where you have 3 groups of people, and the symbol that overlies each group is representative of a mutation that's unique to the tumor of those individuals. Rather than giving all individuals the same therapy, you assign the therapy based on the type of the mutation. And the goal is to reduce toxicity and improve efficacy by delivering the right drug to the right patient. Next slide, please. So let me talk about how we are attempting to do this in our research lab at the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center. We are employing high-throughput drug screening technologies to be able to identify which drug is going to be most effective on a per patient level. So how does this work? In the first figure, I show an example where a plate, which is this plastic square dish, is plated with tumor cells from an individual patient. So each patient gets their own plate of cells. Then the probes with the blue liquid in them would represent a single drug for each probe that is deposited onto those cancer cells. In our case, we are studying up to 170 drugs at a time. We then allow the tumor cells to incubate with the drugs in a condition similar to that of the human body. After a few days, we then use a machine that can measure the fluorescent light emitted by those cells. And we add a special dye such that live cells emit a green light and dead cells do not. And we're hoping to find dead cells because we're trying to kill the cancer cells with our drugs. We can then calculate the efficacy of the drug using standard drug response curves. We can use that numerical value for each drug to create a rank list of drugs which are susceptible to the patient's tumor and those which are resistant. Next slide, please. But we go beyond that. So in addition to identifying drugs that may be effective in treating an individual's cancer, we also do genomic profiling. On the left here, I show a figure that's in green, red, and black, which is representative of gene expression profiling. So in an experiment such as this, we interrogate each of the genes that are expressed by a tumor cell. If a gene is highly expressed, meaning it's producing a lot of message to the cell that's telling it to do something, it would appear as a green light. If it is of low expression value, it would appear as a red light. And we can identify which genes seem to be turned on or turned off in a cancer cell and how that correlates with the drugs for which the tumor is susceptible to. On the right side, I show an example of a DNA helix with an orange bar indicating a mutation. I indicated earlier that a mutation in the DNA is what can turn a cell from being normal to a cancerous cell. So we can identify all the various DNA mutations that arise in a cancer cell and again associate those with the drug sensitivity that we're doing in the assay I showed previously. Next slide. So how do we integrate it all together? Well, we're excited to be using cutting-edge machine learning algorithms that are capable of identifying hidden patterns within the drug sensitivity data and the genomic profiling to now allow us to be able to understand both the biology of the disease and make better future predictions for patients who may need a more effective therapy. Next slide, please. So this is exactly what we're doing. We have initiated a clinical trial at our cancer center to enroll patients with relapsed multiple myeloma. Patients undergo a bone marrow biopsy, which is where the cancer is located. We remove those cancer cells from the biopsy. We place them in the high-throughput screening assay. And then within 1 week, we've been able to deliver back to the treating physician a rank order list of drugs that are most likely to be effective for that patient's tumor. And sometimes we identify drugs that have not previously been shown to be effective in multiple myeloma because those studies just haven't been done, but are effective for that individual patient. So we're excited to be able to bring potentially new drugs that would not have been previously considered to the clinic. And the last slide, please. So this research could not have been done alone. I'd like to thank my co-investigators, Dr. Pamela Becker and Dr. Andrew Cowan, who are instrumental in making this research happen. This research happens at Fred Hutch, where we do primarily the genomic profiling, Seattle Cancer Care Alliance, which is located across the street, where we enroll the patients in the clinical trial. And then all of the high throughput screening is done in Dr. Becker's lab at the University of Washington and the Institute for Stem Cell and Regenerative Medicine, which is part of the University of Washington. So thank you so much for taking the time to hear about the research we're doing, and I'd be excited to answer any of the questions you may have.
Dr. Coffey, thank you so much. That was so fascinating. I love hearing about all the different types of cancer research that is going on. I think I would just like to kick off the questions and ask you a little bit. I know that you are a practicing physician. You're also a researcher. I was wondering if you could tell us kind of how you got to that point.
Great question. So I would say it was in high school. I was born and raised in Denver, Colorado, that I started to take a strong interest in biology and chemistry. And I knew I wanted to do a career in research, but I hadn't yet picked medicine. It wasn't until college where I started volunteering at a hospital nearby that I decided that I wanted to be a part of patients' lives and help use science to actually make a difference in the care of patients. So I went to medical school in Colorado and then eventually went to Seattle to do my fellowship training in hematology oncology. And I've decided to take a unique route, which is uncommon for people in my profession, to primarily focus on the laboratory research, where I spend about 4 days of a week in the laboratory, and then just 1 day a week seeing patients in the clinic. Some people would say, well, wouldn't it be easier just to focus on one or the other? But I actually find that seeing patients helps me come up with more important, relevant research questions. And I also feel that doing the research in the laboratory helps me get closer to delivering the life-changing and potentially breakthrough cures that we can give to the patients in the clinic. And so I find that the two environments are synergistic for me and honestly make my typical day far more interesting.
I love that. So I think we have a question from Facebook from Alex. She is one of our 2020 writers. What are some hurdles to implementing this technology in standard cancer care?
That's a great question. So ideally, every patient would get a result like the one we're doing with the high throughput screening. But unfortunately, it's expensive, so cost is a factor. Second is it's still unproven. We have to enroll a lot of patients and show that this methodology actually results in better care. Just because we show that a drug is more sensitive in a petri dish doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be more sensitive in a human body. So we have to prove that, and that's what we're trying to do. The last thing I would say is sometimes if you identify a drug that is effective in treating the patient's cancer, but it's not yet FDA approved, this drug, unfortunately, will not be paid for by the insurance company. So you have to go through a lot of regulatory paperwork to be able to give the patient the drug, and sometimes the patient has to pay out of pocket. Again, a cost factor.
Great. I just want to turn this over real quickly to our writers that are on with us tonight. Ladies, do any of you guys have questions for Dr. Coffey? Can give me a little, if you do. All right, Shreya, yes, go for it.
Kind of related to the one Alex just asked, is there significance in doing that clinical study that you talked about only in patients with relapsed diagnoses?
That's a great question. So the reason we focused on patients who have relapsed disease is because they generally have fewer treatment options than a patient who has newly diagnosed disease. I think in general, we are pretty good at treating cancer in a newly diagnosed patient, as we have lots of options for a variety of cancer types to offer them. Once they relapse and their cancer begins to show signs of resistance, the number of drugs that are left to treat that patient are reduced. And so it's for that reason that we really wanted to focus on that patient population so as to be able to offer them more options that they would not necessarily have. But eventually, one day it might make more sense to offer it to newly diagnosed patients, but we'd have to really show that it is more effective than the standard treatment we have to give them now.
Great. Shivani, Annalena, anything from you guys right now, or do you want me to throw it over to Facebook? Oh.
No, I have a question. I'm really interested in the machine learning you were talking about being used. I was wondering, when did that start to become useful, and like what exactly like hidden patterns were you talking about when you mentioned that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So let me tell you a bit about how big the data is that we get back. We take into account all of the clinical variables that we have access to. So that would be basic things like, what is the patient's age, sex, what cancer stage do they have, how many lines of therapy have they had before, what kind of therapy. In terms of the genomic data, we take into account all of the genomic features, such as the 25,000 genes that are expressed in each cell. We have a result for each of those genes, and then all the potential mutations that can occur. This results in thousands and thousands of features. That is mind-boggling to the human brain, and there's no way I independently can associate a gene expression value with a drug response value, with a patient clinical value, etc. So it just becomes too complicated. And as a result, we've written computer software that can essentially integrate all that data in and do a variety of iterative analyses that can find the genes that are most closely associated with the clinical factors and the drug sensitivity data, and flesh those out and show us what those are. And it can happen in a matter of a few minutes. So it's incredible how quick this technology is to reveal to us the key patterns that we need to be able to identify which genes are most critical in predicting drug response. And perhaps in the future, that's all we will need. We will just need to know a mutation, or we'll just need to know a gene expression value, and that will give us the best drug to use for that patient.
Great, thank you so much. Annalena, do you have anything, or do you want me to throw it over to Facebook?
Yeah, I'm not sure if Dr. Coffey or Katrina know this, but this research sounds really promising, and I was wondering if you knew where some of the money that Texas 4000 has granted has gone in Fred Hutch.
As far as I'm aware, the research that I've discussed with you today was provided as a proposal, and we have not yet heard back from Texas 4000 as to whether or not it will be funded. If it is funded, it would absolutely help us get to a higher level, and it would primarily pay for the genomic analyses that we discussed today to be able to correlate with the in vitro drug sensitivity testing.
Yeah, so I'll just jump in and say that we are, due to everything that's going on, we've had to postpone or just extend our grants process a little bit. So we are definitely still in the middle of that, and we're hoping to pick that up in July after our 2020 summer ride ends up. But Katrina, I don't know if you wanted to speak on some of the past grants that Texas 4000 has given to Fred Hutch, as we've had a long partnership. That looks like maybe we lost Katrina on the Wi-Fi. But so anyway, so let's just throw it over to Facebook. I think Tony has a question for Dr. Coffey.
How has the pandemic affected, if at all, the bone marrow clinical trial you began? Good question. Fortunately, our clinical trial remained open during the pandemic. I will admit, though, we didn't enroll any patients because patients have been reluctant to come in and try new therapy in the middle of this pandemic. Instead, most have elected to try and use more oral therapies that are not given through an IV, and to stay at home as much as possible rather than come into the center for, let's say, a daily infusion. And as a result, it has affected our enrollment across all clinical trials. That is beginning to change, and I'm starting to see more patients enrolling in clinical trials as their reassurance has increased, and we have seen lower levels of the pandemic at our center.
Great, and I think we have another question from Alex.
What do you see as the future of cancer care? How far are we from personalized cancer care? Well, I certainly hope that the future for cancer care is that we are delivering individualized therapy to each person. Every one of us is unique and should the treatment. The question, though, is how far are we from delivering that? I think for all cancer types, we are a ways away. I would say more than 10 years away from being able to do that for every individual cancer type. For some cancers, we are already there. There certainly are cancers where we can do genomic profiling and identify specific abnormalities that would favor one drug over another. And that, unfortunately, though, is among the minority of cancer types and not the majority. But just in the past 5 years that I have been practicing, I have noticed an explosion just in the number of opportunities for precision medicine to occur in cancer. And so I expect that, maybe it's 10 to 20 years from now that every cancer, we will have that opportunity to use personalized therapy.
Wow, that's amazing. So I think we are going to be moving on shortly to our Sierra Cancer Awareness and Prevention Program. But Dr. Coffey and Katrina, thank you so much for spending part of your Saturday with us. We love Fred Hutch. The Sierra route especially loves you, but we are so excited that we got to share that Fred Hutch experience with all of the writers and all of our supporters that are on today. We are very grateful for having you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We love Texas 4000. We think what you're doing is amazing, and we support you 100%. So good luck with the ride.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Guys, thank you so much. I apologize for dropping off, but we are so grateful for your support. We've had 2 of our grants funded by you. So if anybody has questions they want to throw up on Facebook, I'm happy to address those about which proposals have been funded and the work that's been done as a result of Texas 4000. So thank you again. You guys are fantastic.
Thank
Thank you so much. All right. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye. So I believe now we're going to move into the Sierra Cancer and Awareness program. I'm excited to see this one. I haven't seen this one yet. So here we go.
Hi, I'm Madeline Gay, and I'd like to welcome you to the Sierra 2020 Teams virtual program. Really appreciate y'all tuning in, whether this is through a live Zoom call with the team or you're just receiving this message. We really wish we were in person giving this program, but we're glad that we've still found a way to share our stories and spread our pillars of hope, knowledge, and charity virtually. So I'm assuming if you're tuning in, you're familiar with our organization. Texas 4000 is an 18-month leadership development program, but it's also a 501c nonprofit. We function both as a student organization on campus, but also a registered nonprofit. And our cornerstone event normally is the 4,000-mile bike ride from Austin, Texas to Anchorage, Alaska. But even though that cornerstone event isn't happening as we, of course, initially intended it to, we have been preparing for over 18 months for this journey. And in that preparation, we've all grown as student leaders and also have been able to pursue ways to connect with our pillars, which are hope, knowledge, and charity, as well as developing student leaders. Honestly, more importantly, what brings us all together at the end of the day is that we're all dedicated in the fight against cancer. All of us share this passion to fight cancer, and that's what initially drew us to the organization. Every weekly meeting, a different person from the team would get up in front of 70, 80 people and share their why I ride. In this segment, they would completely have the floor, basically, to talk about why they decided to join Texas 4000. Often, speakers got really vulnerable, and at the end of it, the team was able to come together and support this person and be motivated to ride for their loved ones that Saturday ride and throughout the week. Many of us have witnessed loved ones face cancer head on, and even if we haven't, hearing these stories from our teammates motivated us to ride every Saturday and throughout the week. So to begin, Ray will share his story and what drew him to Texas 4000 and motivates him to ride.
Hello, my name is Ray Kitziger, and today I am going to share with you why I ride, why I joined Texas 4000. I'm in my front yard, actually, in front of my mom's rose garden, because it looks really beautiful, and it's just a beautiful day out. So thought it'd be a good little atmosphere. So when I first joined Texas 4000, I had two main motivations for fighting cancer, for doing this crazy thing to fight cancer. And my two motivations were two relatives on my mom's side, her cousin Mark and her aunt Evelyn. So cousin Mark, I never met him. He passed away before I was born, but he got diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma when he was in college, and I heard his story growing up many times, and it stuck with me, and it was just really, I felt like an honorable thing to do for him. And his mother, Evelyn, Aunt Evelyn, who's still alive today, who I love, just FaceTimed her the other day with my mom. She has been battling breast cancer for a few years now, and it has metastasized, and I love her so much. She lives in Europe, and when I was I think in 7th grade, we went over to Europe, and I met her for the first time, and it was an awesome experience. She and her husband, Uncle Eric, were just so kind to me, loved me like their own grandchild, and I've really cherished the relationship with them, and I've seen them since then, and just wanted to honor Aunt Evelyn and still continue to honor Aunt Evelyn and cousin Mark every day, and as a member of this organization. But after I got into Texas 4000, things changed. So in December, so I joined Texas 4000. I think we found out in late October, maybe early November. And that winter break in December, my dad had this pain in his abdomen, and he had had diverticulitis before, and it did happen to turn out to be a flare-up of that. And so it was pretty bad. So he had to go to the hospital, and they got a CT scan just to see where the diverticulitis flare-up was. And it turns out on the CT scan, they also found a mass on his kidney, incidentally. So pretty fortunate that he even had the CT scan to begin with, because that mass turned out to be a type of renal cell carcinoma. And luckily my dad didn't have any symptoms of that. He was still doing fine, and they caught it really early, which is once again so fortunate. And so our family was just shocked. I'm the youngest of 4 kids. I have 3 older siblings, and they all came in to Dallas from, one lives in LA, one lives in New York. They all flew in to be with my dad during this time while he was recovering initially from the diverticulitis in the hospital, but then dealing with the diagnosis of at the time we didn't know it was cancer, but dealing with that diagnosis. And I think that just really brought my family together. And as the weeks unfolded, my dad decided to go ahead and get the mass removed, and they did the the pathology on the mass, and it did turn out to be a type of renal cell carcinoma. And so I'm just so thankful that it is removed, and it's been just over a year, and he hasn't really had any symptoms or any recurrences at the moment. So just really so thankful for that, but also keeping him as one of my motivations to fight cancer, and just realizing how close to home cancer can strike. And so yeah, I definitely ride for my dad, ride for Aunt Evelyn, cousin Mark, and that's why I ride. Thank you for listening. Hope you have a great day.
Thanks, Ray, for that great why ride. What attracts me to Texas 4000 is that we have this platform to share our stories. In a similar fashion, I'd like to share mine. Principally, I ride for my Nana. During my freshman year of high school, after a 5-year battle with melanoma, she passed away at the age of 64. She was relatively young and active before the diagnosis, and it was really hard for my family to kind of watch her go through that. Her first, she would regularly get skincare checkups because she was fair skinned and she was aware of the risk factor. However, the first time they went and she got a spot that she was worried about, they said it was fine, it was benign. However, she went back a year or two later because she still didn't feel right about it, and they told her it was late stage melanoma. This was really difficult because we did think she was being proactive and she was being careful. And to me, that just shows the importance of continuing to check and continuing to go in and following your gut when something doesn't feel right. But enough about the awful circumstances that occurred to her, because what stood out to me most throughout her battle was how she carried herself. She never complained once about all of her treatments, chemotherapy, surgery. She never complained. You could barely tell she was suffering. She battled with grace, positivity, and poise. And even when she was going through these harsh treatments, she constantly put the needs of others before her own. I remember going to visit her in one of the last few days, and I went to her and she just greeted me with a hug and a smile and enthusiasm. And instead of complaining about her treatments, she was more worried about what dress I was going to wear to homecoming. So just little moments like that show how she was just constantly putting the needs of others before her own and just being the selfless, genuine woman I hope to one day be. She had moved in with us in Houston a few months before she passed away to receive treatment at MD Anderson. And while losing her was one of the toughest moments of my life, I'm so grateful I got to spend those last few months with her. Honestly, I've been searching a way to honor her. And it takes time to process something like that. And I've never truly felt like I had an avenue to express how much she meant to me. And that's why I decided to join Texas 4000. She motivates me through the toughest rides. And when I feel like giving up, I remember how she never gave up. And she did it all with a sense of grace and positivity, which I try to bring throughout my life. And even though the ride didn't get to happen in the way I expected, I still felt like she carried me through a difficult semester. And I'm just blessed that Texas 4000 has been truly special, that it offers this platform for awareness. Now, I'd like to introduce Annalena, who will be talking a little bit about what cancer really is and what it means to her.
So, what is cancer? My name's Annalena, and to me, cancer is something that loses a lot of its power through knowledge. The thing is, cancer isn't just one disease. There are many different kinds. Cancer can start in the lungs, the breast, anywhere in the body. Some cancers grow quickly, while others spread more slowly. Some are caused by genetic factors, while environmental factors play a bigger role in others. We'll talk a little bit more about the difference between genetic and environmental factors affecting cancer later in this talk, But for now, we just want to emphasize that all of these differences mean that there's not just one treatment for the diseases that make up cancer. At their most basic form, however, all cancers have one thing in common. They're caused by uncontrolled and unregulated cell growth. Normal cells grow, divide, and die in a very orderly manner. Cancer cells, on the other hand, grow wildly out of control, crowding out normal cells and creating problems in the body where they start or where they spread to. Unfortunately, cancer is not uncommon either. It's a leading cause of death worldwide and the second leading cause of death in the US. Chances are you know someone who's been affected by cancer, or you've even had cancer yourself, and I ride for all of you. My family and friends, too, have been affected by cancer, from my grandpa Pete to my Opa and my beloved Oma, and I ride for all of them. I ride for a future where cancer plays a non-existent role in our world, and I'm hopeful that that future isn't too far away. Now, on to my teammate Emmy for a little bit more about hope in the fight against cancer.
Hi, my name's Emmy Merriman, and I joined Texas 4000 because I believe hope isn't just something one desires, but a confident expectation for something to happen. We don't just hope to fund for cutting-edge cancer research, but confidently believe we can live in a world free from cancer someday. I was hospitalized for medical treatment when I was in 8th grade and again my junior year of high school. Though my treatment was not for cancer, I formed relationships with others who were battling their own forms of cancer. I distinctly remember how filled with hope each of them were despite what they were enduring, and how encouraging that was for me to fight for my own recovery. I believe hope is like a muscle that we strengthen when we experience adversity and when we have relationships that are trustworthy. Some of the most beautiful times in our lives arise from underneath things we didn't know we would get out from underneath. Many of us have witnessed family members, close friends, and other loved ones suffer from cancer. And although it can feel intimidating to navigate, it is incredibly important to support those in your life who are struggling with cancer. There are many ways to do this. For me, it was through laughter, baking cookies, doing puzzles, but it all boils down to allowing your loved one to feel supported and recognized. Concrete ways you can help involve offering to go to the hospital with them, picking up their groceries, and simply just sitting with them or making them laugh. Many times, the battle with cancer can feel extremely isolating, and people just want to feel that they are not alone and that they're not treated differently than they were before. If able, encourage them to participate and engage in hobbies or activities that traditionally made them happy. It is important to be supportive, caring, and an empathetic figure that instills hope and friendship with them. Now, to talk more about how Texas 4000 gives back, Clara will tell you about our grant and research that Texas 4000 has funded.
Hi, my name's Clara, and I joined Texas 4000 for the many people in my life who have at one time or another been affected by cancer. Throughout my time in Texas 4000, that list has continued to grow as I have met so many people affected by this terrible disease. I originally joined Texas 4000 for my godmother, Margarita, who passed away 2 years ago after a very brief battle with cancer. Her name, Margarita, which means daisy in Portuguese, is why I have a daisy on the handlebars of my bike. Every time I look down, defeated and tired during a ride, I see that daisy, and it reminds me that I can't be defeated because I know why I ride. I ride for my daisy. I ride for the family that lost their daisy far, far too soon. I also ride for Corin Bernard, whose passing from cancer changed an entire family and showed me the lasting impact that cancer truly has. Corin was such a strong woman, and just like Margarita, she spent her days in her garden tending and nurturing her plants in the same way that she tended and nurtured her family. Every ride, as we passed gardens and beautiful landscapes, I remember them. And that to me is the most important reason I ride. I ride to remember. I ride to remember them. I ride to remember that cancer sucks and we need to keep fighting and we can't stop fighting. One thing that both of these women have in common is they both got their treatment at MD Anderson. Margarida lived in Houston, so she was just a car ride away. But Karin flew from Sweden to Houston because she knew that MD Anderson was one of the best places in the world to get treated, which is why one of my favorite parts of our Texas 4000 experience was getting to visit MD Anderson and see how our contributions have helped fund research that helps us get one step closer to cure. Our grants at MD Anderson have gone to MD Anderson's Distinguished Professorship Endowment, the Center for Molecular Markers, the Center for Targeted Therapy, and the Children's Cancer Hospital. But not only do our contributions go to MD Anderson, contributions also go to UT Biomedical and also Brent's Place and multiple different places across the country that help us get one step closer to a cure for cancer and support those affected by cancer. So that's why I ride. I ride to remember, I ride to help get us one step closer to cure, and I ride because cancer sucks and we need to keep fighting. And I will keep riding until I can't anymore.
Thank you, Clara, for telling us about how the Pillar of Charity connects with you. Our next speaker will be Summon, and she will discuss how the Pillar of Knowledge connects with her personal story.
Hi, everyone. I'm Summon. I'm a senior on the 2020 team, and this is my Why I Ride. So I ride for my dad. He was a professor at the University of Houston, and he did research on obesity and hypertension. He passed away last year from lung cancer, but I feel that the lessons he's taught me are stronger and resonate with me more than ever. One of his greatest lessons to me has been the lesson of curiosity. He and my mom have always stressed the need to learn about social injustice and healthcare inequity, and for that, I'm very grateful. It's part of the reason why I joined Texas 4000 to begin with. So the reason why I joined this org, besides, for my dad, was that I wanted to honor the pursuit of knowledge that he was a part of. And each year, Texas 4000 grants awards to numerous organizations that conduct cancer research. We support the UT Austin Biomedical Engineering Department through an established Texas 4000 endowment and multiple research seed grants. We also give grants to MD Anderson, and throughout the year, we host on-campus skin cancer screenings as well. And what's interesting is that skin cancer can actually be very treatable if detection is early enough. And it's really relevant to our times because in the past 20 years, diagnosis of non-melanoma skin cancers have increased by 77%. So in order to prevent this type of skin cancer, it's crucial to avoid UV light. And that goes for people who are of color and as well as people who are white. It's a myth that people of color don't need sunscreen or don't need to protect themselves from UV light. People of color need it just as much as people of Caucasian descent do. So this can be achieved with something as simple as applying sunscreen or staying away from artificial tanning beds. Even if it is cloudy or you were just driving in your car, you can still be exposed to harmful UV rays. So by applying SPF, at least 15, SPF 15, you can avoid this risk factor. So beyond skin cancer, there's also preventative measures that we can take against breast cancer. It's highly recommended that women ages 50 to 69 regularly get mammograms. The American Cancer Society recommends mammography every year for women aged 50 to 54 and every 2 years for women aged 55 and older. Women ages 60 to 69 who get mammograms on a regular basis had a 33% lower risk of dying from breast cancer than their peers who did not get mammograms regularly. And beyond breast cancer, even one of the most effective prevention measures against cancer that we can do is adopt a well-balanced diet and active lifestyle. So a good diet and an active lifestyle have been linked to reduce cancer risk. As far as nutrition, there's no specific cancer-fighting food, but a balanced diet with fruit, veggies, and whole grain has proven to help reduce cancer risk, specifically colon cancer. And there's strong evidence that higher levels of physical activity are linked to low risk of several types of cancer, like colon, stomach, bladder, breast, and kidney cancer. So I hope you enjoyed our presentation on prevention measures. And I hope that we all stay safe and healthy in this time.
Thank you all for taking the time to listen and engage in our program. We love getting to share our stories and our mission with you. You can find our personal stories and more information about the team at texas4000.org. If you have any further questions for us riders, please don't hesitate to reach out. If our program resonated with you today and you'd like to make a donation to Texas 4000 and the advancement of research and care, you can also do so through our website. Once again, thank you so much for listening and participating, and we would love to close out with any questions or ride dedications that you might have. To Alaska and back.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for our third and final Cancer Awareness Prevention Program. Thank you to Dr. David Coffey, Katrina Welch-Reardon from Fred Hutchinson up in Seattle. Thank you so much to Shivani and Annalena and Shreya for joining us. And we're going to take a real quick break, and then we will have our cycling broadcast at 6 p.m. Also, real quick, thank you so much, Sierra, for such a beautiful program. Your vulnerability and hope is very contagious. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the cycling broadcast of the 2020 Summer Ride presented by Abbott, following our great presentation from the folks at Fred Hutch in Seattle. Hope you enjoyed that, and we're going to be having the team come on now. I welcome onto the stream Tony to join in to co-host today. Tony, how are you doing? Whoops, let's get you off of mute.
There we go. I'm doing great, Scott. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Welcome, welcome. Do you want to take the honors and intro your teammates who are joining in for the cycling stream today?
Yes. So we have three lovely ladies joining us today from each of our three routes. We have Shivani from our Ozarks route and Shreya.
Hi.
From Rockies, and then Annalena with Sierra.
Hello.
Welcome. How are y'all?
Doing well.
Did y'all enjoy Awesome. Yeah. Did y'all enjoy the talk with Dr. Coffey at Fred Hutch?
Yeah, the explanation was really well explained. Like, I feel like even without a good background, I was able to like understand what he was saying. So very informative.
Definitely. I agree. It was a very nice presentation that I could understand as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think as Tony, as we finish out our Saturday series, it was great to have someone on talking about the research side of things. I know we started out with Ochsner in New Orleans, talking about support services, as well as they do research there, but our funding helps support services. And then having Brent's Place, Sean from Brent's Place, who's the CEO there, talk about what they do in safe, clean housing for people who are coming to their area from the 7-state area that they serve. For cancer treatment, and then just to be able to have Fred Hutch talk about research is nice to know that we are searching and trying to find the cure for cancer, and so research is very important to us. But we realize along the way too, we need to take care of people through our support service grants. So it's just really good for us, I think, all of us, and to be able to share that far and wide is that's all taped now, so we'll be able to continue to share that with people what we support.
Most definitely. It's good to see the very up-to-date efforts that scientists and researchers are heading on to cure cancer, and the projects that we're helping fund and get off the ground. So it's a great thing to see.
I wonder how your teammates, after hearing from Dr. Coffey, he got interested in biology when he was in high school, and I know so many of you are interested in medicine, med school, and research in other ways. And just, I wonder if any of you that are on right now, if that's a thought in your mind, or if you could even maybe speak to some other teammates that you've talked to, because I know quite a few go into medicine every year.
I'm not going into medicine, but one thing that he talked about, the machine learning part, is something that I've always been really interested in. A lot of my opportunities in college have had something to do with whether it be machine learning or deep neural networks. So kind of the way he explained how that side of medicine and specifically cancer care can be implemented was super interesting, and kind of how he explained that might be the future of cancer care really kind of inspired me personally.
Yeah, agreed. I know I'm not going into medicine. I'm in the STEM fields, but for me, I really appreciate such digestible talks about cancer and cancer research. I really appreciate that part of Texas 4000. Shreya, are you going into medicine?
Yeah, I am interested in medicine. But what I found interesting is his, interest in research kind of later in his career. I think a lot of people either pick primary care or research. And I really thought it was interesting how he combined interacting with patients, seeing cancer patients on a daily basis, but also really doing a deep dive into the research behind therapies.
Shreya, it's interesting you bring that up. It's something I've had asked as a question for myself, but not related to medicine and the topic that we're on. But you guys probably know that I have a degree in mechanical engineering, and here I am running a nonprofit. And I do think it applies to everyone everywhere, that just times have changed to where people can have multiple interests and pursue different things over their lifetime and make impacts that I think gone are the days to where you solely have to focus on one thing in life as your career path or your interests, and you can make an impact, because I think the biggest thing is the motivation to do something and have that. And so out of that, you just made me think that all of you I know as leaders will go on not only to make impact in one field, but maybe multiple, and in different ways in the communities wherever you end up being, whether that's in Austin or any place else. And I think that's just what's so wonderful about our program at Texas 4000, is to see year after year as people go on, whether 5 years out and 10 years out, the different things that they go on to do. It's inspiring.
I agree, Scott. It's really cool to see our teammates. There are a bunch of young college students, and we're studying all sorts of things. There's probably someone on our team from every school at UT Austin, from music to fine arts to engineering to business to natural sciences. And we're all studying different things, and it's cool to see our different passions and people pursuing different organizations and their successes outside of Texas 4000. It's kind of cool to learn about. We're all centered around fighting cancer, and we all have a passion for it, but it's really cool to learn about our teammates and the other passions that they're pursuing. We have students that are, taking on some really great research internships in completely different fields, or, they're musicians, and, they have their own band, or they're writing a book, or what it not be. But it's cool to see us all have our own unique passions, but still pursuing the same mission. So I agree. A lot of my teammates are going to go on to do some amazing things, and it might not be related to cancer, but they're always going to be focusing on carrying the mission in different ways, and their other interests as well.
Well, and you all demonstrate, and Tony, you've led the charge on this with volunteerism, but that is the one thing that everyone in the world can do that doesn't require you to put money out. It requires you to give your personal time. And as college students, you have a lot that you are already doing with classes, and then your engagement within T4K. But one of the things that stands out in the program is that we do require volunteerism. And I think it's important part of our program, because I think it demonstrates to people who come in who might not have already been volunteers previously to a certain level, that how powerful and how important giving back of your time and your talents, because you all are very talented and you give back in a lot of different ways to charitable organizations, just how valuable that is and how much it can change things. So I don't know if you want to kind of lead with that, Tony, and kind of talk about volunteerism and go through everyone here and just share a little bit about what that impact has been on you and the orgs you've helped.
Yeah, I can give just a brief overview of how the volunteering at Texas 4000 works, and kind of why I got into heading our volunteering efforts for my team. And then, we can definitely hear from our three writers here what their personal experiences were with volunteering. So I have been involved in volunteering and community service for a while, since I was in middle school, just about. It's something that my community really focused on, and my family really focused on, and so it's something I learned from a young age. One of the main reasons was my younger sister fought cancer, as my teammates know, and she unfortunately passed. And she had a rare form of cancer called neuroblastoma that not many children are diagnosed with, and then fewer survive. So it was very rare in our in my community where I grew up in the Woodlands. It's north of Houston. It's a suburb just north of Houston. And there were several children in my area, in our neighborhood, within a few square miles, that had all been diagnosed with neuroblastoma around the same time, and were going for treatment at Texas Children's Hospital together in Houston. And so it was kind of interesting, it was kind of abnormal to see that many diagnoses in the area. So my mom and my family got really involved with the Children's Neuroblastoma Cancer Foundation, CNCF, and we got involved when my sister was fighting her battle, and then after she passed, we continued to stay involved, helping them with their various fundraisers throughout the year. We made lanyards and sold them to healthcare workers, and we made big sales twice a year, fundraise and stuff. So that's kind of where I saw my mom take up a lot of her community service. That's where I started to get involved. And then from there, in junior high and high school, I volunteered with National Charity Roundtable, which if you've heard, it's kind of like the male version of National Charity League, NCL. And so I continued to volunteer through high school and with various organizations, cancer and non-cancer related. And so when I first came to college, that all went out the door. I was focused on my academics and the stuff that was quote unquote more important. But I always had an affinity towards my extracurriculars and serving my community. That was what I saw important. That's where I learned, the real life lessons, was outside of the classroom for me, and that's what I care about the most. So I was fortunate to find Texas 4000 once I was settled into my career here at UT, and so that's been my opportunity to serve my community again. So I was very pleased to be able to take on this role for the team and help each of our writers reach almost 50 volunteer hours over the past year and a half. So it's been a really fun opportunity.
Shivani, how's your experience with volunteerism been within Texas 4000?
Yeah, so I mean, up until Texas 4000, kind of in high school and college, my experiences with volunteering has always been centered around education. So I never really engaged with the cancer community prior to Texas 4000 that much. And so I think my first volunteering experience with Texas 4000 was Purple Stride. So it was the 5K for pancreatic cancer. And not only was that my first experience volunteering, it was also one of my first prominent experiences with Texas 4000 in general, and kind of just the amount of people that I got to talk to and just the entire atmosphere, the collaborative atmosphere of the entire experience, people coming up to us, telling us their stories, made for a really, really memorable first volunteering experience. Other than that, I volunteered almost weekly in the fall semester with Dell Survivors Challenge, which is where we went over to Mueller and ran for an hour with families that kind of were a part of that survivorship program. So that was really nice to see. It kind of echoed the same kind of atmosphere that initial Purple Stride experience did, where just everyone was so friendly and so vulnerable. That's kind of what struck me. Everyone was so ready to tell their stories. So those are kind of the two main experiences that have stuck out to me with Texas 4000. I'm really grateful for it.
Shreya, how about your experience?
A lot of my volunteering hours are come from volunteering at various bike rides for kind of an abundance of different causes. But what really struck me is the camaraderie between the biking community when it comes to fighting for these causes, be it cancer. I know that there was a ride for AIDS that I volunteered at, but it was really inspiring to see so many people willing to fundraise, willing to train for these bike rides, and people of really varying skill levels on the bike. And them just recognizing that what we're doing is very similar was really fun to engage. It was fun to engage with the cycling community when we were volunteering. Sorry, that was a bit choppy, but yeah.
Annalena, how about your experience? What stands out?
I would say I resonate with Shivani's experience that the volunteer opportunities I've had with Texas 4000 have been my first sort of engagement with the cancer community. And the vulnerability of people that we see is just, it's really heartwarming at times. And my favorite volunteer experience has actually been one where I'm not directly interacting with people, but it's through an organization called Girls Love Mail. So they collect letters for women who have recently been diagnosed with breast cancer, and then sort of send a multitude of letters in a little package to them, just sort of as a sign of support, and for them to hear the stories of others. And I'm especially thinking about Girls Love Mail right now because my mom's good friend, Andrea Paco, she passed away unexpectedly from breast cancer earlier this week. And so I'm just really thinking about, the impact of something that you can do at home. Anyone can go onto girlslovemail.com or search it up with a Google search and send people letters. And that really, I think it emphasizes our pillar of hope, just sort of sharing stories, even if it's through a letter or virtually. So I really enjoyed that volunteer opportunity that we've had.
Thanks for sharing that. You made me think of something as you said that too, that's we've talked about several times in different broadcasts, and Dr. Coffey even alluded to it about cancer patients being reluctant to come to the clinic during the pandemic, and how cancer treatment needs to happen for these people. It's the timeliness of it can make such a difference in the success of treatment, but also that cancer patients live with this every day, what we are all going through, where to go, when to go, who can you be around, because they have immune compromised systems. And that, this is something we're all experiencing now as we make decisions, but they've been living with it. We are living in their world. And it just jumped out at me when you were saying that. It's something we're all experiencing. I think now we have more of a common ground of understanding what cancer patients are going through. And as much as you said about sending letters and support, that we all know how important it is to have that support when we cannot be together, socially, or be around friends or family. We crave it so much.
Yeah, definitely.
Tony, what's next?
We're going to check in with our writers on Zoom this evening. So we're going to pull them up on the screen here. There they are. Got quite a few of them tonight. So we had our first half of our team ride this morning. Now we have the second half of the team seating there. So they're working hard. And so as always, our Saturdays are our all team days. So all three of our routes are riding here today together. And tomorrow will be the Sierra route. So we'll continue our rides as usual through next week until our final day on Friday, where we'll have our final event and our tribute event. So there will be more information on our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, about our final event, but we'll be continued biking up until the very last day. So we'll continue getting those miles in. And so tomorrow, if you'd like to see the Sierra route ride, they will be having ride dedications at 7:30 a.m. and cycling for an hour at 8 a.m.
Oh, wait, Tony, tomorrow's a special day because they're going to do the broadcast at 1 o'clock.
Yes.
And I believe that is in lieu of the 7:30 ride, from what I understand.
That's right. We're also having our two-part series. So at 1 p.m., we're having the second part of our series, Talks with Texas 4000, titled Affording Access. So we're going to have a guest speaker from Foundation Communities. That is the health program manager there. And she'll be talking about kind of how we can get access to healthcare to those who, have socioeconomic factors affecting them, or financial instability. And so, what we can do to help those that need access to healthcare and cancer care. So you can check out that event on our Facebook. And our writers will actually be writing during that time as well. So.
And that's really, I think, as far as what you do as a team, besides the volunteerism, we saw just last hour at the end, the team's program on cancer awareness and prevention, and these other talks that are being done that the team really has led the way on. You guys are helping spread this cancer awareness and prevention information and other knowledge that's very necessary for people to understand on how cancer affects everyone and where there are disparities and inequity in cancer treatment, and how we all can make a difference, again, by being knowledgeable, knowing how we can plug in our local community, wherever it may be, Austin, all the way to Anchorage, across the country. Now that we're in the virtual realm, I think you guys are doing such a great job of being able to bring information to people, and the information we'll be able to continue to share since these are all recorded. So I applaud all of you.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, Alex Miller, our programs chair, has done a great job in heading these virtual programs. And we're very excited to help the communities, despite not being able to physically be there with them. We're hoping that our virtual programs are able to reach more people and that they can reference them back for resources and for information. So we're very excited about it.
Well, we've been talking about a lot of information about cancer awareness and prevention and volunteerism. Let's talk about something fun. We ask this every time. So which is it for you guys? Buc-ee's or Round Rock Donut? Which is your favorite place to go when you go riding? I see a whole bunch of people. I don't know if we could do a show of hands from the Zoom room if they can hear us. If you call out one and see what people like the most.
They might not be able to hear us, but we can have a.
I see some smiles, so I think there's some people who might be listening. But Shivani, is there a favorite for you?
I was thinking about that. Is the question for destination or like overall ride? Because that
maybe it's both. Because I know y'all talk about food treats, and you also talk about it as a route that you ride. So where does it place for both?
I think Round Rock Donuts has to be my favorite destination, and I think Bee Caves might be my favorite like route to ride, just because I mean all the hills are super challenging, and I feel like I get like the best workout when I do it. But I also feel like it's so scenic, and so it doesn't feel like a huge workout. But then you like look at your like bike computer, and you're like, oh, so much elevation. So I really enjoy Bee Caves. But yeah, Round Rock Donuts. I feel like they know us there now too, because there's just so many riders coming in, and the donuts are amazing. So that would be my answer.
Yeah, I would. Go ahead, sure.
Oh.
For destination, not BK. Do you like Buc-ee's more or Round Rock more?
For me, definitely Round Rock. I do like. I think I just might have just had a bad Buc-ee's ride or something, but definitely Round Rock. Just because, yeah, the donuts, you can't beat the donuts. Even though Buc-ee's does have variety, I guess you're right. I feel like if the riders could hear us, we should definitely do a vote for Round Rock or Buc-ee's. I'd be curious.
You may need to do a survey offline that we can report back on here.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell though, since we were only able to do Buc-ee's once.
Exactly. And it was like a rainy day and everything. Is anyone on the call, is their favorite Buc-ee's?
No, I wholeheartedly agree with you, Shivani. My favorite is Round Rock, but particularly for the people there, not just the donuts, because you can get sweets at Buc-ee's too, but I love that they do know us and know the mission that we're riding for, which I'm sure if we go to Buc-ee's enough, the same will happen.
Yeah,
that's for me, it's Round Rock.
Yeah. Because we got to do Round Rock so early on, and so we continue to do it, whereas Buc-ee's, again, literally once, and so they just don't see us as much. So maybe if we did Buc-ee's more often, that would become my favorite.
And we would get in a lot of shape, really good shape. Buc-ee's is about an 80-mile ride, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think that's the longest ride I've done yet to date, because I was, keeping up with the training program, not doing anything longer than that during our, weekly rides. So I still think of Buc-ee's as being my kind of greatest accomplishment right now.
Yeah, I remember getting to Buc-ee's like 40 miles in, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to finish this. Like, you really have to dig deep for those longer rides.
Definitely. Yeah, that was I think that was kind of everyone. I mean, it wasn't hilly; it was mostly flat. But since it was so long and the road wasn't the most beautiful scenery, but I think that was a lot of people's kind of more tough route that they've done for sure. But unfortunately, we weren't able to try it again.
Yeah.
Well, let's just remind everybody watching too, please feel free to share your questions for the riders. They're happy to answer anything today. Also share your words of encouragement. We're happy to hear those, or any ride dedications. If you'd like them to ride for someone, please feel free to share those here. And Tony, what's next up? What question do you have for everyone else?
Yeah, going off of our Buc-ee's versus Round Rock feud. Looks like there was a link to Round Rock Donuts there. So those are kind of like traditions in a way that are they're rides that every year we do as part of our training program. And Round Rock is kind of earlier on. I believe it's kind of like the late fall that we usually do that ride for the first time as a team, because it's about 40 miles. 20 miles there and 20 back, and it's a pretty safe, easy, fun route, pretty flat, so a lot of people like to do it to kind of get some miles in, and then also get some donuts in. So But yeah, so that's a tradition that we do every year as a team. We bike to Round Rock, and Buck uses one as well. So, and maybe it's not just biking, but would y'all like to kind of share your favorite Texas 4000 tradition? There's a lot of different traditions that we pass on year to year, formally and informally. So would any of y'all kind of have one that you find special, or you like to you like to participate in, that you'd like to share?
I think the last time I heard this question, one of my teammates, I don't remember who it was, but they mentioned just meeting in the CPE parking lot as sort of a tradition. So for anyone watching, for our Saturday rides, we usually meet there at 7:45 in the morning in a parking lot of a building on campus. And I know that's become sort of almost like a sacred place, this like barren, under construction parking lot behind an engineering building. But I always kind of think of that as a tradition. When I drive by it now, it's kind of bittersweet to look at it in all its empty glory. But I really like that. I think it does show some of the dedication that we have to get up every Saturday morning just to train, that kind of thing. So yeah, I'd say CPE parking lot is my kind of favorite informal tradition.
I love that.
I saw Bettina said, could we ride for the Rubens? Yes, we will absolutely ride for the Rubens.
Yes, thank you, Tina.
I really like training camp. I think that that's a tradition. So at the beginning of the fall semester, I believe, when we first get our bikes, or a couple weeks after that, we go to training camp. I forgot what small city it's in, but yeah. And we get to be trained by alumni and previous coaches, and those coaches see like ride year after ride year after ride year. So they always have like interesting stories. They're our fiercest supporters. It's so encouraging to have them like riding with us. I learned so much from that weekend. That's like our first like sleepaway thing where you get to meet a lot of the riders and get to know them better. Yeah, that was one of my favorite experiences. I think 2019 like pulled a prank on us and like put our bikes on the roof, and we had to like come get them. It was a prank, but it was actually really cute. And I think that's my like favorite picture of Texas 4000 is like us trying to get the bikes off of the roof. So that's definitely my favorite tradition.
I forgot about that prank. That was funny. We all woke up after sleeping in the school gym in Fayetteville that hosted us. And what do you call it when it's like a gym and a cafeteria and also a...
I know what you're talking about.
A cafetorium?
Cafetorium?
Cafetorium? I think that was it. That sounds right. But we were sleeping in that in our sleeping bags, and we woke up early for our training. I think it was the first day that we trained because we got there in the evening before. Mm-hmm. And we woke up, and a lot of our, not all of them, but a lot of our bikes were like on the lower like level of the roof that were like covering the paths around the school. Cafeteria. There it is. But yeah, so we had to like reach up and get them down. And I think some of our bike wheels, they let out some of the air as well, so we had to pump them up again. That was funny. Yeah, I would say that's probably my favorite training, or my favorite tradition as well, the training camp. Unfortunately, we weren't able to participate in the spring break training camp or the Camp T4K right before the summer ride. I'm sure those would have been a lot of fun too, but I'm sure they would have been somewhat like the training camp, so it would have been a fun time. But Shreya, do you have sorry, Scott, Shreya, do you have a favorite tradition you'd like to share?
Yeah, it's pretty cliche, but I've really grown to appreciate ride beds. I feel like at the beginning we were all really awkward and didn't feel comfortable sharing. And also, I joined this work for like very specific people. But the more time I spent in the work, I became like more aware of like other people's stories, and like if I heard something on the news related to cancer, I'd be like, oh, like that's what we're writing for. And I think a lot of other people did too. because ride dads became longer and longer every meeting, and it became my favorite part of the meeting at the end of it. So I think ride dads.
That's great to hear, Shreya. I couldn't agree more because I think Ride Dads is the thing that is universal within T4K. We do that at every board meeting, every staff meeting, every team meeting, before every ride. And it is an opportunity for us to not only learn who you are riding for, or who you may have just come in contact with that you didn't know from the day before even, that has shared their story with you, but I think it gives a deeper insight into all of us and know that we are all people. And that there are lots of things going on that we may not know about everybody. And you hear something when someone shares a ride dad, like, wow, they've got a lot going on in their life, whether that's with family or friends, or even hearing a story from a stranger. I hear a lot then the amount of time that you are all taking to connect with people. And that really resonates with me, with the organization. And then the thing that you're able to bring other people in and allow them to share who they want you to ride for in honor and memory of. I just think it's the best part of T4K, that it brings people together.
Couldn't agree more. Definitely.
Tony, what else are we going to talk about with everyone here today?
Maybe another tradition we could talk about and share with our audience. So Texas 4000 works in that we, for the most part, always have a onboarding team and a ride year team. So we're sending a team every summer, of course, to Alaska. Unfortunately, not this summer. We're doing it virtually instead. But in order to do that, each team goes through an 18-month-long program, so there is overlap, right? So this past spring, while we were training to start on our summer ride as the 2020 team, we had the 2021 team onboarding. So they start in the spring with a lot of volunteering, fundraising, getting introduced to the organization, learning about it. They're not yet biking like we are. They will begin that, this coming fall. And so there's overlap between the teams. So of course we're on separate teams, but we're still doing same mission. We're in the same organization, and so we try to get some interaction between the teams during that overlap. So maybe do one of you, would you like to kind of describe how we like to introduce the the new onboarding team? So in our case, the 2021 team to the organization in the fall after they learn that they've been accepted to the program.
Yeah, we initially have like some kind of sign up sheet. Like the first way that they find out is usually through a Texas 4000 member from the previous team. So that's us. And so you get to sign up. If you know anyone who got in, you get to, come up with a creative way of telling them. So that's really fun. I got to like surprise one of my best friends who got in on the 2021 team. And then we have a picnic, like a rider picnic, where I feel like we just play a bunch of icebreakers and have a potluck. But it's just so fun because there's so many people, because each ride team has like 70, 80 people. And so it's an enormous amount of like high energy people all together playing these enormous icebreakers. So super fun. If you guys want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I know for me, I had a unique experience in that my sister was on the 2019 team. So when I was finding out that I got onto 2020, the way I thought that something might be up is we had a German class together, and she missed the class and then was calling me at the end of it and was like, hey, come out to the parking lot. And she had brought some like Tiff's treats to me to surprise me. And I did the same thing for a friend of mine brought her a treat as well, who's on the 2021 team. So I think that's a great way of sort of surprising people who find out they got onto the team. Oh yeah, and Miles is saying favorite tradition, route reveal. Yeah, later on after the first semester of onboarding, which is in the spring, and sort of just learning about Texas 4000 and volunteering and starting fitness in the fall, then we have the opportunity to sort of preference routes that we're interested in. And then with the help of the ride directors, they sort of split us up. And this past year, we had a really fun reveal of everyone getting a glow stick in a sealed envelope. And then we turned off all the lights and broke it and revealed the color of the route that we each got. I know that was really sweet. My two close friends, Dom and Zelisa, next to me, we all had blue, and we're super excited, freaking out about it. And I didn't even realize, I was like, is this Sierra or Rockies? Like, I didn't even know the color. I was just like, we're together. So that was really fun.
Your guys' leadership. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tony.
I know. I was just saying that is a fun tradition. I really loved our route reveal. Every team kind of makes up their own version of it, and they reveal it how they like. I think previous years teams have done, like, maybe it was 2019. They did balloons, and I think when you popped it, it had like confetti or a bandana or something in it, or that was the color of their route. So that was cool.
We had 1 year the Harry Potter biking helmet that announced your route as you came up and sat down in the chair, and it was put on your head. Your ride leadership, every year the ride leadership comes up with a very unique way to have a route revealed to the team. It's always interesting to see. As staff, we play no role in it, as with a lot of things with the team that have to happen. You get to come up with really neat, ingenious ways to breed excitement within the ranks of your team. It's always cool to see.
Yeah, and that's like the awesome thing about Texas 4000 and there being a new team every year is there are traditions that are passed along every year and that are followed, almost to the T. So, it seems every year the new rider picnic, there's always like kind of the same icebreakers that are played that are pretty fun. And it's always a potluck, and it's usually in the same park on campus. But then, there's things that each team comes up with on their own and makes it unique to their team, like our route reveal. It's different each year and how exactly we do that. So it's kind of cool how Texas 4000 carries a lot of tradition every year, but also each team kind of has their own destiny to fulfill and to determine how they want to run things. So it's a really neat aspect.
Well, and I think that's the great thing about the organization as well, that each team has the opportunity to bring new things that become tradition or last with the organization, whether that is doing the Cancer Awareness and Prevention Program and having a Spanish-speaking version of it that's been done in the past. All kinds of different things that have become part of the organization have started with riders as rider initiatives that they felt strongly about, that resonated with their team, and that they wanted to make part of the organization. And then some of those have stuck long term, which is great.
Yeah, I'm thinking of RMS, which is our rider management system. Mm-hmm. Is that correct? Which is basically an online system through the Texas 4000 website where all of the riders log their miles and kind of reports of their rides if anything happened on them. And so that was started by Texas 4000 alumni. And so, that's an integral part of Texas 4000 and how we operate is we use this system to log all of our miles and keep track of training and stuff. So, it's all of these programs that kind of come up. The ideas are come up with by the riders themselves, and they're implemented. So it is really cool to see the organization kind of become form and morph to the riders that come through each year.
And I will say, give kudos to you guys for what I think will become one of your legacies. There's more than one, but one of your legacies is this summer, the fact that we're doing these live broadcasts. I know that I've heard from Tony and from other people on the team how this might be able to be utilized going forward in the future, even while the physical summer ride goes on, and even during the ride year for us to continue to share more of what goes on with the organization. And I know the staff is thinking the same thing. So we're excited to, sit down with you who want to share, and also then bring the 2021ers in on the next team to talk about their ideas, having seen what you've done. So I think it's going to open up a whole new world for us to share our message of fighting cancer to even more people. So thank you for all of your time invested in doing this for so long.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, definitely.
should we check back in with the Zoomers?
I think we should. See how they're doing.
Let's get them
Pull
back
them up
up here. There we go. Still cycling away there. I can't, I'm not even sure. I know everybody kind of set some personal goals for cycling over the 4 weeks of the virtual ride. Did anyone here set any kind of goal, or do you know about anybody that may be on in the Zoom room? I know where people are doing safe cycling outdoors where they can as well. We've got a plan to do that so that everyone can stay safe. But if you want to share a little bit about, the personal motivation of what you wanted to accomplish during the 4 weeks. Did anybody have a goal?
I have a trainer, but I don't have like a bike computer compatible with it. So I'm basically just doing it off of time. So we have 2 required rides, and I'm trying to do 2 additional rides, also for an hour each during the week. And during this time, I'll just FaceTime random teammates and friends, and it's become like a fun, like, look what I'm doing right now, and also pastime. But I do know that I think there's multiple teammates, but I definitely know that Colin set a goal for, I think, 1,000 miles by the end of 4 weeks. I think he's mostly doing inside, but he might be doing a bit of outdoor riding as well. But I think 1,000 miles has been the goal for several of our teammates this summer.
I kind of set a goal, not like before I started riding, but I never actually got a trainer. So I've been doing all my rides outdoors safely. I've only been doing shoal because that's like the only one I trust myself with. But kind of while I was doing shoal, unlike the other rides I've had with Texas 4000 during training, I've been able to kind of just go a little bit faster and kind of like get in the zone, because it's just an hour ride. It's not like a long, like 80-mile ride or anything. It's just a quick 15 miles. And so my goal hasn't been like miles wise, but it's been kind of like more speed and like sustaining that speed. And it's funny because like when I go faster, I often find myself being able to like get in the zone more and kind of like just become more reflective. So that's honestly been like the highlight of a lot of this, is I've really got to like think more deeply on the bike, if that makes sense. So that's been really nice.
Great. Yeah, I personally didn't set a specific goal for this summer. I originally had the intention of hopefully biking every day during the 4 weeks, though I know that wasn't quite feasible given that we still had a lot of logistics to plan for the virtual ride, and we had other obligations during the summer as well now. But I want to continue riding through the summer even after our virtual ride ends next week. So hopefully then I'll be able to set a mileage goal, but I also like the idea of trying to reach 1,000 miles this summer. It seems like a significant number and something that's feasible for us given the circumstances. So, but yeah, we're biking as hard as we can for now, and everyone's biking at least a few days a week. So that's great to see us all still cycling on.
And there's certainly oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say I'm sort of in the same boat as Shreya, that my trainer doesn't have I don't know how many miles I'm biking or even really the speed, but my goal every day, every time I get on the trainer, is to bike hard enough that my legs are at least a little bit sore the next day. That's been my goal so far. But I really admire everyone on the team who set, physical mile deadlines for themselves, just to hold them accountable and all that.
I just want to remind everybody we're taking questions and certainly encouraging comments to the riders. So if you have a question for any of the riders, they're happy to answer them. Post them live on Facebook or YouTube. We're broadcasting on both live. And Tony, is there anything else you want to ask your teammates?
Maybe. So, kind of thinking about cycling and going on what would have been, the summer ride on your route. So we have all 3 routes represented here, and there's quite a few cities that we go through. Usually each route goes through at least a couple national parks where they camp. So maybe there was a specific route, along your route, maybe there was a specific host or city or park that y'all were looking forward to visiting. Would y'all like to share maybe that specific place you were looking forward to?
Yeah, it's not a national park, but I was really looking forward to going through Paducah. And that was kind of just confirmed when we got to talk with the host from Paducah. I always hear about how like sweet and welcoming they are. And we just got to hear about what they've done with previous riders and how friendly everyone is and kind of about their survivorship program. So I think that was on the top of my list for me.
I know personally, this isn't a city that we've gotten to go through before, but I was really looking forward to hitting El Paso and a lot of the other cities sort of along the border. Our lovely Sierra travel chair, Rachel, was implementing that this year. So I was looking forward to also going to some new cities. I know we have sort of tradition cities almost where we go every year. And I was looking forward to all those as well, of course, Portland, San Francisco, all of that. But yeah, I was looking forward to sort of going along the southern border of the US this year.
Yeah, I have a ton actually, because I was on travel, so basically every host that I ever emailed with, I can't wait to meet you. But,
I agree, yeah.
A host named Grace in Children's, who Davica found through Airbnb, and she like immediately was on board. She emailed a ton of schools, a ton of restaurants for us, and basically set up like our entire stay in the span of a week. We got back to her and we were like, "This is incredible! Thank you so much." So definitely Grace, who I hope we'll see in the future, and then Dustin in Big Sky. Dustin is the superintendent of the Big Sky School District, and this was the first year I think we were going through Big Sky, so I had to reach out to like a ton of different communities and spaces in Big Sky. It's a pretty small little town, but he's a pretty avid biker, and when we talked on the phone, he was like giving us advice about how to get into the city and out of the city because it's like flanked by mountains. But definitely those two people that kind of just, I'm so impressed at how quickly hosts are willing to host us. So those two, and of course, Rockies goes through a ton of national parks, and I was really excited to go through like Yellowstone and Glacier and all of those.
Yeah, I was also looking forward to that on the Rockies route as well. A lot of the national parks that I hadn't been to yet.
Tony, one thing before we answer this question here, I'd like to share is that some people may not know that we do try to keep some staple cities to the routes over the 3 routes each year that we consistently keep. Some of the larger major cities are where we have long-term relationships, even if they are not larger. I was really proud of you guys for kind of rearranging actually one of the stops this year, Farmington, New Mexico, where San Juan Regional is, that we support in the Four Corners, that provides safe, clean housing, serves the Navajo Nation in that area. And that moved from the Sierra route actually to the Rockies route this year, which was exciting for us to be able to both allow you guys to change up some of the route, which we do, up to almost about 25% of the route can change so that we can reach a lot of smaller communities each year and change that around while also keeping consistency and trying to make things a little easier for the travel folks by having a lot of relationships that exist where people know and want to host consistently from year to year, but allow you guys each, again, as a route and the team to make decisions to reach family, friends, people that you know that may be just a few miles off of where we maybe went the previous year and reach new communities to spread that message of hope, knowledge, and charity. So just wanted to share that before we answer the next question.
Yeah, that's a great point. So we have a question here. How has Texas 4000 influenced you all in your day-to-day lives? That's a really good question.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. Shivani, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. Definitely eating a lot more, the longer bike rides. Like I had my Apple Watch and I was like on those longer bike rides, and consistently it would be like over 2,000 calories burned. So definitely eating more. One thing specifically for me is that I was riding in honor of someone who had died of alcoholism. So I pledged to not drink for the entire ride year. So that definitely changed my day-to-day life, especially being in college. And I think just kind of going off of that in general, like we had an early morning ride every single Saturday. So that basically we had to get to sleep early on Friday mornings and you were knocked out for kind of the rest of the weekend. And so it kind of made me a lot more reflective of kind of the friends I had and, not, going out as much and all that kind of stuff, but kind of just like sitting and just being with teammates a lot. I feel like apart from just being on the rides with like teammates, I feel like I saw them so much more than I expected. So definitely a lot of camaraderie and a lot of time with teammates off of the bike.
Definitely, yeah. There's quite a bit of our daily lives has changed with Texas 4000. It's a organization that it's 18 months long, so it takes up a good chunk of our college career. And because it is such a tremendous effort to plan the summer ride and to do the things we want to accomplish, it's pretty intensive. So it's something that takes up every week that we're in it. Of course we have summer and winter breaks and whatnot, but during the school year we're meeting every week for our general meetings on Monday evenings. We have leadership meetings, so our leadership team meets on Sundays, and then routes might have their own specific meetings once they are formed, and then each of our chairs and their committees meet on their own. Then we're having our Saturday rides and our weekday rides. So it's a lot, and you can you can take a step up if you want. You can take on the leadership role and get more involved if you want, or you can kind of take a back seat and just focus on the requirements of the organization and fundraising, biking, volunteering, and whatnot. So it does change a lot of aspects. A lot of it's good. I've learned to better manage my time. I've learned a lot of new skills through Texas 4000, a lot of people skills, and so it definitely is kind of like a very holistic kind of change to your life once you join the organization. You're becoming more fit and trying to become more healthy, and so there's quite a bit that changes. A lot of good stuff.
Yeah, I would agree. In addition to sort of all of the time that we have to rearrange in our schedules to meet the demands of Texas 4000, similar to Shivani, I think I've become a lot more mindful through my experience with Texas 4000, not just of my time management, but of how grateful I am to have the people in my life that I do still have. Thinking about how my parents each lost a parent to cancer, makes me very, very grateful to have them in my life, and grateful for all of the time that I have with my family and friends at this moment.
That's great to hear.
I 100% agree with Annalena. I have become so much more empathetic, I think, to this organization. Going to UT because it's so big, and there's so many people with different backgrounds, but you feel like you don't really know people that well. You know a lot of people, but not to the same level as you get to know them through Texas 4000. So just being very appreciative of people's stories and their lives has definitely been like a day-to-day change in how I see the world.
I love hearing that. I will tell you all that I think that some of the greatest lessons that can be learned here is that empathy and compassion and really connecting with people. There's communication, and then there's a connection through that communication. And I love watching that happen with riders, because you can see people come into the organization that are more guarded for whatever reason that may be. And just to see those barriers start to come down, because I do think some writers are more comfortable with that and lead by example. And then those friendships develop and people's walls and barriers start to come down. And we all, I think, come to the realization that the benefit there is in that connection and how much better of a person we can become individually and how much we can then do to serve others by being open like that. I love watching that happen. And then just from a purely kind of, I'll say, becoming a leader thing within the organization, we say this at the beginning that, this is a leadership development program. And I think some of the best lessons are learned by the failures, not doing it right the first time, not cycling perfect from the beginning. We don't ask you to be a cyclist when you come in. We want you to learn. And I think people learn from their errors and they learn from each other, which is great. We love that support. Everyone is not an expert on something, but some people have skills, better skills in various areas than others and can help teach. And I think that's the greatest lesson that you guys do for each other, is being able to train the trainer, so to speak, and bring someone along and impart your skills through that compassionate way that you care about each other. So I love watching that happen.
Well, thanks for the great words. We're going to check in with our cyclists one more time before we end our broadcast here in a couple minutes. There they go. And I just wanted to remind y'all, like we said earlier, tomorrow we will be writing at 1 p.m. actually, in conjunction with our second part of our 3-part series that our programs team is putting on, Talks with Texas 4000. Tomorrow will be Affording Access, where we will be talking about socioeconomic factors affecting cancer patients and their families from getting certain treatment and equal outcome treatment in cancer care. And so we're going to kind of give a program to educate those on those factors and then provide some resources that cancer patients and families and caregivers can use. So we'll have a couple guest speakers and some Q&A conversations. So it should be an exciting event. It will be at 1 p.m. tomorrow, and our Sierra writers will be writing in the background, and we'll check in with them during that program. But I just wanted to thank you all. So we're going to say bye to our writers here for now. And I wanted to thank you all for tuning in to our broadcast today with Fred Hutch, our partner organization, and listening to Dr. Coffey give his presentation on his clinical trials. It was great to see, and hopefully we'll continue to see their proposals granted and the great research that they're doing moving forward.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you guys for hosting.
Tony did a great job.
Thanks, Scott.
All right, everybody. Well, this will close things out. We want to thank Abbott, our Summer Ride presenting sponsor, and all of our sponsors. Everyone have a great evening, and we hope that you will come back tomorrow at 1 o'clock to spend time with the writers. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye. Y'all then.